We're going to be looking at the execution of one of our elite Axia traders over the ECB presser on Thursday the 26th of July. So this isn't a huge trade. A lot of the trades that we've reviewed the execution of have, big extended moves, big size, correlated markets. So I just want to show how the same trader has the ability to adapt to slightly slower market conditions and still execute with a lot of size, but not necessarily looking for a huge move, but still really maintaining a really good risk reward during this trade. So we're just going to quickly look at the 5 minute. I'm not going to go into the outcome of the ECB. There's been plenty of streams and information on our website for you to go over that. But in summary, there wasn't a lot going on. It was pretty quiet. Nothing came out of the screen dump. And then as the presser started, there wasn't a huge indication from the opening statement that there was going to be any real major information to really drive the market. So in this situation, just a way that you may be able to execute on one of these non-event ECBs, but still to really be able to take a good risk reward trade. So just looking at the 5 minute here, just want to pay attention to just a couple of key prices. So we're looking at the opening price from the presser, which started at 1:30 p.m, which was 07s. We can see we failed at the low here during the presser around the 90s area, and we're just looking at, as we start to bid up, just going to look in this this white box, a trade which could be taken as we break through the opening price and moving up towards this 27s area. So just very quickly switching over to the profile now, and we can see this is the morning of ECB, so we've got a very balanced day. This was the low that I think a lot of people were potentially playing for at the start of the presser, but we obviously failed down here and moved back up. And I just want you to pay attention to the prior day, this value area. So any trades that we may be looking for to the long side, not necessarily expecting, unless we see real aggressive price action, us to move up through this value area. I think really, you're looking for a move from the failure at the lows back up and towards these 27s, or at best around the VPOC area. I know that we've got some other information on some other streams on the website, I think, which maybe address the failure up here and move back down, but really just looking at what happened in this zone here from 7s to 27. So just moving now to the video, and keeping it very simple, we've got our Bund ladder here. I'm going to pay real close attention to the correlation with the euro here, because I think it was real, gave the trader a lot of information, a lot of ability to understand the timing of executing with his size. So the euro and the Bund had demonstrated a good negative correlation throughout the start of the press conference. When we failed at the lows here, kind of coincided with when the euro started to come off and move down from somewhere in this region up here. So just going to pay attention to the euro as it approaches the lows, when it breaks the lows, and then also remembering this is the opening price, the 07s of the start of the presser. And just see how tight this trader manages to keep his size, never really looking to go too much offside given the relatively small targets towards that 27 area at the prior day's value area in the Bunds. So we're just going to start now. We're just going to pay attention to, as this euro drifts down and as the Bund trades up towards these 07s, where this trader and how he starts to execute the size. It's also just to note, during the press conference, you've got to be quite cautious, because although you're expecting nothing big to come out, you never really know, and Draghi might just drop an absolute bomb, and you don't want to be caught with size, with the market going aggressively against you. So Euro's drifting lower, Bunds failed down here towards 90s, just drifting up towards that opening price. And you can see the bid starting to hold at around 05s in the Bund now. A little bit of a battle at 05s, but the Euro's still drifting lower. We've done 378, new 400 contracts, 600 contracts, taken 05's bid, and as soon as we bid over through 6s and the Euro's approaching the low, he's entering with a 20 lot, which isn't a huge amount of size. He's got the ability to deploy upwards of 200 lots, so it's showing that he's being very tentative and just wants a little bit more confirmation. So he's in with his 20 lots, Euro pressing to the low, and immediately trying to feed more in, chasing a little bit here, and getting up to 50 lots, hitting up market at 9s in the end, and then getting filled just on a little pullback, or maybe not, sorry, just pulling those orders on the bid. But really doesn't want to take too much risk here, but as long as the Euro's held to the low, you've got to be quite confident that, you know, if we start to see the bobble, which is here, taking the high as well, you know, you should see a move through the highs of the day, but understanding, sorry, just holding it there. So as the Euro's taken the low, he's now executed with more size. He's up to 150 lots. And for those of you familiar with this trader's execution style, he's usually in with size and then constantly laying orders, in this example, on the offer, scaling out or getting flicked out of his, getting flicked out of some of his size as he's hit on the offer as it moves up. But I just want you to pay attention now to when he's in with size, how he manages that. I'm not going to try and talk too much, but just want to see how he manages it as the market rotates higher. So Euro's still hugging the lows. He's now in with even more size, up to 200 lots. And again, just scaling out with 10s, laying them, expecting this to take the highs. Okay, so we've just ticked the highs now at 15s. I'm going to pause it there. So the first stage of this trade, the first confirmation that this is working, obviously, is you want to see the highs go in the Bunds. Now, the way that we've taken that high, we've literally ticked it and then just come back. So I just want you to see how he's aware that if this trade does start to fail, given the price action that we've seen in the Bunds lately, or given any kind of potential new information that you could get through the presser, this could fail quite quickly, and you don't want to be holding all that size and drifting 10 ticks offside. It doesn't warrant taking that amount of risk given the amount of reward that's potentially on the table. So you can see the offer starting to hold now a little bit. 14s is holding, still scaling out, trying to hold on to his size. But as we've now just started to offer over a little bit, he's just chasing down with some of his 10 lots, trying to get out. But just want you to see how quickly he scales out of a significant part of his size as he looks to potentially go offside through 11s here. So 11s reloading. Euro's still pushing towards the low, but actually starting to bounce just a little bit now. So just paying attention to the Euro, and as soon as 11s goes offered, he's starting to get out with more. He's down to 100 lots. He's willing to scratch a proportion of this trade, especially as we've now offered over and Euro started to bounce a bit more. He's down to 60 lots. He's just been a little bit more aggressive with scaling out of this trade and just biding his time on when, if there is going to be that swift move through the 27s. He wants to be holding the largest amount of size that he can, but he understands that there could be quite a heavy rotation here. So he's really scaled out of quite a lot of his position, and just paying attention to his P&L here, he's pretty much flat, like down 600 or something like that on the trade. So he hasn't really capitalised on this trade yet, despite entering around this 0708s area. It's just showing how patient he's being with the trade and where he really feels that there will be a swift move of 5 to 10 ticks at some point. Just wants to make sure that he's still in the trade, still ready to deploy his size when that does come around. So 11 seems to be holding a bit now. Euro, although it's bounced, starting to drift back towards the lows. Really wouldn't want to see this trade now, even with 30 lots going much below 7s or 8s. But really you can see that he hasn't gone more than 1 tick offside really so far in this trade. Just pay attention as the euro takes the lows, how he executes in the bunds. Okay, so he's bid 20 lots at 11 in the bunds. He's chasing with another 20 lots at 12s. And then as he's been filled on 20 of them, and then 80 lots, bid at 13s, getting more aggressive now as he sees if the euro takes the low, we should expect to see this start to grind up. And if we can hold above the high that was set of the day around 14s, and we start trading into these 15s, you could be quite confident that you should be able to get that potential next 10 tick move. Albeit again, scaling out quite quickly. He's been dragging his average price up, but still not allowing himself to go offside more than 1 or 2 ticks. We've got the bobble at the highs as well. So all the correlated markets kind of are telling him what he wants to know, but equally, he still hasn't seen that swift flow move that you'd be looking for. Just see how we trade into 15s here. He's bid another 30 lots, which he's only getting partially filled on at the moment, at 14s, which is generally a good sign if the market's going to move up. If you're not getting filled on your bid 1 tick below the highs, started trading 300 lots into 15s at the highs. It's a real good indication now that we should be able to start to move up. So 130 lots in and scaling out. The next 5 ticks or so above the high of the day. Euro's still hugging the lows. As long as this is hugging lows, you're kind of thinking that there's still potential for this move to go. And knowing that that value area on the prior day is around 27s, you've got a good target. There's no reason for it to necessarily stop right here. It would be quite strange unless there was some sort of fundamental shift given from some new injection of information throughout the presser. So the euro's still hugging the lows. It's being very patient here. Wants to see this market bid over at least 3 or 4 ticks, taking out prices towards the highs. And these slow grindy moves you should expect at some point. There is a bit of a potential flush, not necessarily towards the end, but certainly before a significant pullback. Okay, so there we have it. We've had the 3, 5, 7 tick move through the highs. He's been scaling out with 10s. He's now reduced his clip size on what he's scaling out, still trying to stay in this market, ready to add in with some more size if we did start to see some more aggressive flows. But again, just very conscious of the overall size of this trade, or the expected range that you would expect this move to stay within, given the structure of the market and given the lack of significance of the press conference. So you see he's scaled out to pretty much 40 lots. Now scaling out with 4 lots. And you can see some real distinction between how he executes this trade and the level of aggression relative to some of the other trades that we've seen from this same trader. He could potentially still be in some of these other trades. He'll still be pushing to get in with 100 lots, another 120 lots, but you have to kind of be realistic and manage your expectations of the trade and your execution accordingly. So he's chasing down a little bit now. Kind of feels like the trade that he was looking for that move from 7s potentially up to this 21 to 27s region for now is kind of done, or at least there may be a pullback into this region before it continues. So really just kind of looking to scale out of this trade now, and will end up taking off all of his size, and I think up to around the 17s area he starts to get out of the last remaining bit of his size. That being said, if we were to see now the euro dump and the euro start to really hammer through its lows, I think we all would expect, given what we've seen from this trader, he would still be willing to hit in with some size and expect to see the higher taken again, which it does in the next flow, which comes over the next sort of half an hour and as the press conference finished. But really that's all I've got to show for you today. So as I said, it wasn't a huge trade, but just want you to pay attention to how much this trader's made. He's made about 10k out of this move. At his height, he was deploying about 200 lots, but anywhere from about 30 lots, mainly holding 130 through the main part of this move. But you never saw him go offside with size more than a tick, really. And it's just sort of show you can be quite nimble. You don't have to have 100 lots. You could have 10 lots or 5 lots and scale accordingly. But the risk reward of the trade stacks up. If you're making, say, 5 to 10 ticks with size, never taking more than 1, max 2 ticks risk with that size, then it warrants the trade. That's how these traders become very consistent, in that they always have favourable risk reward when taking on these trades.